Attorneys representing the appellants in the Vybz Kartel appeal today raised concerns about the sentence imposed by the trial judge. In wrapping up his submissions to the court this morning, attorney for Kahira Jones, Robert Fletcher, told the court that the judge failed to apply the right principles in sentencing the men. Mr. Fletcher also told the court that the trial judge should have requested a social inquiry report so that he could have more information about the accused men.
Up first this evening, lawyers for dancehall entertainer Vybz Kartel today urged the Court of Appeal to free him, saying he was not in Havendale, St. Andrew at the time when Clive Lizard Williams is said to have been killed.
For a third day, lawyers for the appellants continued their attempts to show weaknesses in the 2014 trial which led to Kartel's conviction.
The evidence of the police officer is that the cell site demonstrated that Mr. Palmer was at Havendale at 7:52, but the hospital records show that he was at Andrews Memorial Hospital at 7:48. So he could not be, the time span is too narrow for him to have been literally in these two places at one time.
She pointed to what she called the overwhelming number of deficiencies raised about the trial, like prosecutorial misconduct, breaches of the Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedom, inclusion of inadmissible evidence, and a rush to justice.
Oh, we are saying that it's so bad. It's so bad that you ought not to give the prosecution an opportunity to fix those things that have gone bad already.
Kartel's lawyers also took issue with police statements and media reports during his murder trial and how the matter was dealt with by the trial judge.
Up top, you don't know a Cheddar review. I'm there with the next story. So now, Vybz Kartel lawyer is blasting the judge that presided over the case, over the trial in 2014, stating that he allowed contaminated evidence to be included in the trial. So I'm gonna read the article in its entirety and then give you my take on it. Retired High Court Judge Justice Lennox Campbell gave the green light for contaminated exhibits to be included in the Vybz Kartel murder trial, and this triggered a domino effect that was prejudicial to the entertainer and his three co-accused, an attorney has argued. Among the contaminated exhibits used as evidence in the 17-week trial, according to Robert Fletcher, the attorney for Kahira Jones, one of the three men convicted of murder along with Kartel were the messages and a video recorded lifted from the entertainer's mobile phone. The contamination was acknowledged, accepted, and unexplained, said Fletcher as he made his case before the Court of Appeal yesterday to have his client's conviction and prison sentences overturned. Once the learned trial judge admitted the exhibits that were contaminated, there was no way he could correct it in his summation to the jury, added Fletcher. His assertion came after Valorenita Robertson, Kartel's lead attorney, pointed to the evidence presented during the trial that the dancehall artist was being treated at Andrews Memorial Hospital in St. Andrew at 7:48 p.m. on the day Clive Lizard Williams was killed at a house in Avondale, also in St. Andrew. According to Nita Robertson, this challenges the veracity of the cell tower information produced by police experts. Inspector Warren Williams, who heads the police cybercrimes division, testifying that the cell tower information showed that Kartel's mobile phone was operating in Havendale at 7:52 p.m. Further, Nita Robertson cited the testimony of the main prosecution's witness that he arrived at the house at 8 p.m. and that after the events he witnessed there, he took Kartel to the hospital close to 9 p.m. If the evidence that Kartel was at Andrews at 7:48 p.m. would mean that Mr. Palmer would not be at the house when Williams' death happened, Nita Robertson told the appeal court as she wrapped up her submissions yesterday. Fletcher indicated that he was still trying to understand Campbell's decision to admit the contaminated telephonic exhibit into evidence, then asked the jurors to determine if it was contaminated. I can't find words to describe it. What skills do they have that would allow them to make such a decision? He questioned. Jeremy Taylor, Senior Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions, who along with Orette Brown and Celine Ogilvie are representing the prosecution, will respond to the submissions on Friday. So yeah, you hear that, people? A lot of things are going in Vybz Kartel's appeal. A lot of iffy things. Enough for the evidence used against Vybz Kartel. The lawyers for Vybz Kartel is saying that they are contaminated, and they have official proof to show that, because one, the lead witness for the prosecution saying that Kartel was at the house in Avondale 8 p.m. killing Clive Williams allegedly, and then he carried Kartel to the hospital 9 p.m. That's what the lead witness said. Then now, scientific evidence is showing that Kartel did not arrive at the hospital at 9 p.m. He arrived there at 7:48 p.m. the same day. So that is showing that there's a lot of holes in the lead witness's testimony. Then the trial judge now, he seemed very biased during the case. Justice Lennox Campbell, he seemed very biased during the case. Check out what Vybz Kartel lawyer had to say.
What he did was to give one side, a one-sided view that really put the appellants in a negative light when there was no evidential basis to do it. So one of the complaints is that these negative directions were left with the jury, and so they would have put the appellant Palmer in a particular light, which was negative.
Kartel's lawyers also argued today that the judge erred in his treatment of the unsworn statements of the appellants when he failed to inform the jury of the possible effects of the statements on their consideration of the appellant's case.
Well, the unsworn statement, the learned judge should have, in my view, left them with the possible methods of dealing with the unsworn statement. So, for example, if you accept it, then that means an acquittal. If you have a doubt, it's still an acquittal. It's only when you don't accept it, then you go back and look at the Crown's case. Or if it makes you feel sure of the Crown's case, then that is how it is applied.
Mrs. Nita Robertson also raised concerns about what she called amplified imaginative storytelling language by the trial judge in his summation. The judge said the next point that the prosecution is relying on is that Shaw was brought back by Palmer and Sean Campbell into the area where they had been before, and there they saw Lizard lying motionless on the ground with Andre St. John and Kahira Jones and another man over him. Imagine that. That phrase, imagine that, the defense views as problematic.
He is saying to the jury, well, this seems to be some fantastic thing the defense has come upon.
Next track. Hear me now? Big up the real Tobago thumbs them. I'm going to tell you about Tobago. Ready, people? You see Tobago thumbs them? With him. Hey! Look at the teeth, and the rest is never. You know me now, Tobago. You know boy, my tongue. Hey! That's it. You know, son, and the whole gas are there of him, they don't know. With him. I'm gonna say, Bush cover, I'm gonna call it. Yes, he is. When I get him,